So this was your home here?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yep, this is it. It was a 2-story, 3-car garage home, just beautiful like all the other homes in this hood. And basically, beautiful backyard, little paradise back there.
Lee Perini and her family lost their home 3 weeks ago when the Marshall Fire ripped through the suburbs of Boulder, Colorado.
It's like, there's my daughter's tricycle.
Oh, and there's another bike too.
And this is my husband's dad's skis. This is what's left.
Oh, you can see the bindings from them. Oh.
And his pins.
The Marshall Fire was one of the most destructive fires in Colorado's history. It was also one of the latest wildfires on record, coming months after what used to be the end of the fire season.
It's that comfort and security, safety, I guess. The material things are replaceable.
Does that change your sense of what's a safe place to live?
We're in the suburbs of Denver, and you just don't think that it could happen here. This is not normal.
Normal is a word that might be losing its meaning when it comes to the environment out west. The 3 largest fires in Colorado's history all happened in 2020. And last year, the state experienced its hottest summer on record. Boulder also tied its record for the latest first snowfall, a dusting back in November. That set the stage for what was to come. Russ Schumacher is Colorado's state climatologist.
Why was the Marshall Fire so bad?
Fire experts talk about these big fires being climate-enabled and weather-driven. So the weather on that day when the fire happened was just really, really intense winds. So 100-mile-an-hour gusts. Essentially what happens is the flow comes over the mountains. It's a little bit like when you see water kind of going over a rock in a river, and it kind of comes over and then slams down on the other side. And then that was kind of set on top of the fact that we had a very wet spring. The grass is all growing up, and then basically 6 months of hot and dry that followed that. And so it's kind of this connection, all of these things coming together to create this disaster.
Does it just keep getting worse?
The research is pretty compelling on the western US trending towards more and more area burned, from wildfires going forward.
The changing nature of the West means that people who want to live here might need to change how they live. And that's only gotten harder. The neighborhoods that burned up outside Boulder were part of what scientists call the wildland-urban interface, a risky mix of suburban-style developments and uncontrolled nature. It's especially prone to wildfire. And increasingly popular. These days, more than half of the people in the West live in one. That creates a new kind of challenge for the people responsible for putting fires out.
Yeah, so this whole neighborhood, as you can see, is completely gone. But a wildfire like this, it burns until it runs out of fuel. So there's really nothing left.
Are the fires coming to the suburbs, or are the suburbs coming to the fires?
Yes, both. We always had fires on the Front Range here a little bit, but we are moving closer to them as well.
What does that change for your job?
We're set up to deal with, a house on fire, a building on fire, one at a time. So, you start looking at getting 20, 30, 50 houses on fire, there's no way that we're gonna have enough people to do that.
Do you think it was kind of a reality check for people?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And me just as much as anybody. I'm thinking, I live in the suburbs, I don't have to worry about this in my house. And I'm sure many people that lived here thought the same thing.
You've got the question of the climate and how that's affecting things, but you also have very obviously people who want to live close to nature, but they also want to bring with them a neighborhood and all the things that make it feel like they're in a city still. Mm-hmm. And that seems to be the disconnect.
I don't think it's going to stop. You're not going to have people stop moving to Colorado. People that, they want a little bit of space around them. They want natural beauty and a little bit of seclusion, but there's a price with that.
How quickly did you realize that this was going to be a really big deal?
Pretty quick in. Arriving on scene, I didn't see much because all the smoke and the dust blowing across the car, I really couldn't see past the hood. So I had to try to get repositioned, get some situational awareness of what was going on. And by that time, additional units were arriving and they were reporting fire. And it had already jumped the road that I traveled in on. And at that point, we knew we had something extraordinary coming down at us. So we kind of turned from that initial mind shift, right? We got to protect this house. We got to try to put this house out, to now we have to protect multiple homes. We have to figure out where this fire was going to go.
I mean, is there a point with something this big where it's no longer about putting it out and it's more about making sure people just get out of the way?
It is, and we hit that point fairly quickly. I had a discussion with another command officer that was there, and we said the best thing we can do is make sure that all the citizens have been notified and we've evac them, and that the first responders are not getting into harm's way on this, because we were not able to stop it.
What was different about this fire?
Well, I'll tell you, Mother Nature was a little different that day, right? We have seen long periods of no rain, no precipitation. The winds were crazy that day. I think they clocked them at 115, but standing in them, it felt like 200, right? It was pretty intense. The weather and the weather preceding this was different for this event.
Were you spending the summer thinking something like this might come?
I mean, you're always on edge, right? You're always on edge when it's this dry and the winds come. Were we anticipating that we would get into 1,000 homes? No, not really, no. I don't know if that crossed anyone's mind.
That's the other thing that's different, right? Is the type of landscape. I mean, it's this, right? It's this community.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, right over there.
Yeah, right across the street.
Burned down homes. I mean, what does that mean? What does that say, that these places are getting hit by a wildfire?
I think what it says is we have to re-examine our definition of urban interface, and that we have to start including things, because I have a nice, couple hundred acres of open space behind me, which is nice, and we see coyotes and foxes and stuff running through them, but now it's no longer just the pine trees and in the mountains where we talk about wildfire. It is now in suburban areas where we have open space.